In Edge of the Masquerade, we have Twitter, which has quite a bit of lore on it if you're interested in that sort of thing. We also have a Discord. And in that Discord, we have a role-playing channel called the Elysium, where things happen in between sessions. This can be, but is not limited to, campaign-altering situations such as the one I'm about to explain. This week in the Elysium was the apparent mortal Jack Jackalson's retirement party. At this retirement party, there were quite a few of the power players of Alabaster City. We had, who always seems to be at the center of attention, Vincent Lenz. We had the golden tongue, or voice rather, Haley Johnson. There were the Thin Bloods, Cypher Maloy, Jeremy Wells, and Tommy Gunn, as well as a new player, Brandon Markstrom, the Anarch Baron of Southern Alabaster. His appearance at this event marked an ominous turn in the story. Haley Johnson took the stage for Jack's retirement party, only to be met with one of her weaknesses, causing her to burst into flames on the stage. The masquerade edging closer to being breached as kin and kind alike fled from the grand ballroom of the Ivory Tower. Cypher was the first to reach the burning Haley Johnson, throwing her to the ground. Then Tommy and Jeremy both arrived to assist putting out Haley's fire. Vincent scanned the room, found Jack Jackalson, and ordered him to stay. As he was headed towards Haley, he got into a brief confrontation with Brandon Markstrom, who was not exactly the friendliest. After the situation was diffused, both by Vincent's overwhelming presence and a Nosferatu by the name of David E. Bell, Vincent pulled everyone that was within earshot to his apartment. From there, things kept escalating. David was the first to enter after Haley and Vincent. And then, following him was Jack Jackalson and a mysterious kin known as Z. Z handed Vincent a letter, and Vincent went mad. Finally, the scene came to a close. Jeremy gave some of his blood over to David. Tommy refused. And Cypher gave Vincent Z's business card. What you're about to witness is a special time spent between Jeremy and Vincent Lenz, 2 days after the retirement party of Jack Jackalson. The scene before you is as so. The night was calm, save for the wails of sirens and pedestrians scouring the streets. Jeremy, looking outside of the warehouse, you see a limousine drive up. You know this to be the car that Vincent prearranged for you to meet him in. There's a light drizzle as the half moon glares ominously down onto the earth. Take it away.
Jeremy will stuff his hands in his hoodie pockets and kind of slip the hood over his head and walk over to the car, knocking on the window just a bit, just to make sure that it was his ride. Without doubt it would show up. A limousine would show up to a warehouse in the industrial section of the city, but...
After you knocked the doors open, and you see a shadowy figure inside the dark limousine who you can see just lights on the very pale skin of the hand gesturing you to come in.
Nodding silently, Jeremy slips in, kind of makes himself comfortable in the limousine, knowing there's plenty of space for both of them. Kind of calmly sits for a moment in silence. It's like, all right, Mr. Lenz, why'd you call me out here?
So as you step into the limousine and you sit down on what you noticed very well to be a very spacious and comfortable couch, you can see that on the other side, leaning on the window, sits Vincent. But it actually takes you a little moment to realize it's actually him, as he looks totally different from when you've last met. He's dressed very casually in a leather jacket, black t-shirt and jeans, totally nothing like you usually witness him in suits and all that stuff. His hair are dyed black and put back a bit with a hairspray. He looks like someone that you would meet in an expensive nightclub, maybe someone that you would hang out with during the times when you were trying to blend in a little bit more into the Alabaster's proper society. He doesn't look that much like the prince you saw just a few days ago. He slowly takes his eyes off the window and shifts his head to look you straight in your eyes. And he says, "Good evening, Mr. Wells. Or can I call you Jeremy?"
Of course you call me Jeremy, Mr. Lenz. However, you really dressed down. Not in a bad way. I mean, you look really good, but usually with the suits and stuff, you know, it looks very different, is all I'm trying to say. Didn't recognize you for a second. I got actually a little concerned I got the wrong one.
He smiles a little bit and he says, "Oh, please call me Vincent. Let's stop with this misters. I'm sure that you are not used to being called Mr. Wells as well. And, well, I wanted tonight to be as unofficial as possible, just to wind down a bit after the last events, you know?"
I totally understand. It's been a crazy few days, putting it lightly. But yeah, Vincent. Definitely the whole Mr. thing, not really my thing, but you know, I was trying to be polite. I would put it.
I appreciate it. Well, first of all, Jeremy, I wanted to apologize for what happened recently in a more personal way, you know. Days have passed, the situation calmed down, so I thought it's a good time to maybe relax a bit. I know that seeing a prince in distress is a rare thing in our society, a pathetic sight. I'm sorry for that. I might guess it could have been more terrifying to young vampires like you three. We all have weak moments, and you were unlucky to see mine. I will do my best to never make this happen again, okay?
It's alright, Vincent. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was very shocking and a little bit terrifying seeing how strong you really are. But I mean, considering how the whole prince thing, I wasn't too surprised. you know, you just seem very approachable in general. Just, I'm glad that we can just hang out for a second without me having to call you Mister. Which is, it's alright. If I gotta, I'll do it in front of more important people, but...
Well, I really hope it can just stay this way, honestly. As we probably know, I'm not sure if you talked to Cypher, but I spent some time with her, and basically I've met with her solo just to show her the ropes and to give her a little bit of a better glimpse on this whole undead thing, because I do owe you that. I haven't spent enough time with you free. I left you pretty much in the dark, knowing that you don't have sires to talk to and to show you the ropes of what's going on in the night. So that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah, it's been a lot of, trial and error. Especially with the whole teeth thing, that was eventful. But, she did talk a bit about some things, also something about a book that she had. I was probably going to take a peek in it when she wasn't looking, but beyond that, nothing much. I mean, she didn't say too much about anything.
Well, it's totally fine if you want to peek into the book that I borrowed her. These books may seem to be boring in most parts, but they do provide a lot of information about our society and, vampiric society building up for all these centuries. There's a lot of things to get to know, a lot of customs that you may not be aware of. I tend to lean towards being a bit more modern and not force you all to try to attain to these customs and to these traditions, because I honestly considered most of them to be obsolete anyway. I just wanted to tell you that the reason I am meeting with you today is mostly to help you out, and of course to finally get to know each other better. As it's impossible to do it during those official events, and when there are more people around, it's just a little bit hard to bond, so to say. And he says that by looking at you and smirking a bit with a little wink. So, Jeremy, how are these unlife nights treating you?
Jeremy chuckles a little bit and kind of runs his hands behind his head, leans back, and is it's not too bad. I'm starting to get the shakes though, and I tried to basically do some coke, did heroin. I didn't feel nothing. So, it's probably gonna suck for a little bit upcoming. The withdrawal probably hit me really hard. But, I'll get through it, probably. I probably won't die again. But otherwise, beyond the craziness and people asking me for my blood and, people just trying to kill each other in general, it's interesting. I'll say that. It's definitely interesting.
Vincent chuckles, hearing your story and the way you talk about it. And through his smile, as you can see his fangs showing up a bit, he says, well, so I guess it's not a big secret for you that you tend to share with others that you were an addict before all that, were you?
I mean, kind of look, you could see it. Listen, every man has their weakness. I'm not trying to hide mine.
Vincent chuckles, and you can bet I know a lot about that.
I'm sure you can, Vincent. Everyone has their own moments, but I'm definitely, I'm not ashamed. I've had issues with it in the past, but it's a part of me now at this point, and people know me by it. So not just the addict thing, but also I got a little bit of street cred, people know me a little bit. They might not remember my name, but they definitely recognize me. So just in case you're worried about that.
Well, I would be actually worried about you being recognized for obvious reasons.
Yes, I'm sure.
It's not very good to be recognized after your regular life has ended for me.
Yes, I'm pretty sure about that. But I have been avoiding my usual haunts. I'm starting to visit some new places. Still the same kind of people. Can understand that.
Well, I can bet that one of the main places of your, let's say, territories for people like you, and he says that without any disrespect, of course, would be Alabaster South, which you should understand that is not the best place for you to hang out nowadays, especially after what happened 2 days ago.
Yeah, I heard about that from David. That's the whole. I want to call him bad guy, but I mean, who's really bad guys nowadays? It's more like the enemy, and he puts like his quotes up like with his fingers, and he's like, yeah, no, I've been trying to avoid there ever since I was told to stay away. But yes, I was kind of lingering around there beforehand. So, just try to keep my nose clean, not die.
Vincent looks out of the window and thinks for a bit, just like with his fingers on his knee, just like patting a bit, like he's very like pondering about something. And then he says, yeah, enemies these days. You see, we cannot be really sure who they are because the enemies very often hide within the veils of faces that you are more accustomed to you, the faces that are the most dear to you. We are not really sure if that person that you saw there, that we all saw there, that is supposed to be someone who planned Haley's assassination, is our real enemy. And that actually causes the biggest problem. But I'm not here to bore you with talking about politics and all that. After all, we were supposed to meet to relax a bit after it all. And it might be good news for you, Jeremy. Or I don't know, maybe bad news. If I inform you that, although I do not know much about drug addiction, I am a person addicted myself, but to a little bit other forms of pleasure. He says that by smirking again. But withdrawal is not the only option for you, Jeremy.
Then what would the other issue be?
Well, if you want to feel what you felt again when you were immortal and what really made you so happy, there are ways.
I'm listening. Jeremy leans forward.
Tell me, Jeremy. And Vincent just leans back and looks at you through his half-closed lids with a little smirk on his face. How hungry are you right now?
I won't lie to you, Vincent. I'm always hungry nowadays. It kind of gets worse a little bit over time. And, with my teeth, it's a little bit harder. So I was planning to maybe steal a bag off Tommy when he got home. But, if you have a better idea, I'm definitely listening.
A bag, you say? So, Jeremy...
Kind of gross, but, it kind of sates it a little bit. But,
So you want to say that you are not a bugger, are you?
I definitely wouldn't consider myself that.
All right, I think I may know what would be best tonight for you to satiate your appetites. So, let's go have some fun. And to that, Vincent leans down below the seat with which he sits on, and he takes a little package from it. he throws this package towards Jeremy, and as you unpack it, you might be a little bit surprised to see there are clothes inside. And these clothes are very casual. I mean, a sweatshirt and some jeans, but you can see that they seem to be very expensive, albeit they don't look, you know, like the super elegant kind of stuff. It's a very comfortable kind of clothing, but also
higher end comfortable clothing.
Yeah.
Got it.
You might want to change first.
All right. And then Jeremy just immediately just slips off his hoodie in the car and tosses his shirt aside and slips on the new shirt.
Doesn't like move his eyes anywhere. He's looking at you.
Jeremy kind of like lets him watch, as you know, kind of does it a little bit slower, knowing that he's watching, and then then slips on his hoodie, and then kind of is like, all right, this is comfortable. I could do this.
You look good, Jeremy.
Thank you, Vincent. I mean, you definitely look good yourself, but I'm sure you already knew that. Now, where are you gonna take me? I'm very interested.
He leans towards the driver, and as the driver sees the little commotion in the back, he opens the little window leading back to the backside of the limousine. And Vincent says, take us to a nightclub. Now, Z, you might help me out with this. Which nightclub would be the one that is kind of posh, but also has some shady mortals, the ones that would probably be into some illegal substances?
The Roost is probably going to be the closest one to you. It's about 10 minutes south near the border of Alabaster proper and Alabaster South.
That sounds good. Let's go there then. And after Vincent tells the direction to the driver, he sits back looking at Jeremy, and he says, Jeremy, we still have one thing to discuss before we venture on with our night. I heard that you have some small feeding problems, don't you?
Yeah. Jeremy will actually just open up his mouth and like show the very small fangs in his mouth. It's like, yeah, they don't really cut it. Don't really sink into the skin like they should, I'm guessing. So, more like when I bite on a neck, it's more like just teeth on a neck.
Vincent would like immediately lean over on you, like just like stand up from his seat, just lean over, push his thumb a little bit down your lower lip, and just like look inside your mouth a bit, like leaning towards you and being super curious about it.
Jeremy would like flinch for just a second, feeling like his finger like touches lip, but then he just kind of relaxes again and lets it look.
So after he looks for a moment, Vincent would just like sit next to Jeremy and say, well, you may not know that, but actually I would say that most of us, if not all of us, the creatures of the night, we do have our problems feeding, and I know the best about it. And to be very honest with you, Jeremy, I would exchange with you anytime.
Oh, well, that definitely sounds nice, Vincent, but I can't hit you up every time I'm hungry. You're busy a lot. Jeremy would just kind of like laugh a little bit.
Yeah, Vincent just like leans back, smiling a bit and saying, Jeremy, the curse that flows through me and forces me to feed in a very specific way is just way easier than yours, and I hope that you that this is a little thing that we can both share, our little suffering that gets us through the night. But as for now, I want you to accept a little gift from me. And Vincent just puts his hand in pocket and takes out something small and long, kinda. And as you open it, you notice it's a small, dark dagger / stiletto. It's very pointy and with a very, very sharp end. It looks like a very perfect poker to poke through someone's skin, just to, get a little bit blood outside. And it's also, although it looks very expensive and it looks very, it was handcrafted by someone, most probably. It doesn't actually attract too much attention because of its size and color.
Alright, so Jeremy would kind of take it and weigh it in his hands and examine the blade. And, definitely a nice blade. Looks very professionally made. Definitely not a normal knife, I can tell you that. And this is for me?
Yes, Jeremy, that's for you. I mean, under one condition.
And that condition being?
He leans towards you, getting very close. You would say that uncomfortably close, although his aura of presence makes you feel kind of relaxed and chill. And as his smell surrounds you and overwhelms you for a bit, and you can actually feel a weird warmth emanating from his body as he gets super close to your face. Vincent opens his mouth and says, "My letter opener. Hand it back, please."
Jeremy kind of laughs a little bit and then immediately slips his hand into his pants and produces the letter opener he took from Vincent's desk. He's like, I didn't think you'd catch it.
It's my favorite letter opener. And I assumed that you took it because of your condition, but well, I would say it was just a wild guess. I'm happy I actually guessed that. He says that by taking the letter opener from your hands and just put it back on his side of a seat. Jeremy, I appreciate your talents, and let me tell you, Sticky Hands is a talent for creatures of the night, but you must know that there are some people that you probably shouldn't steal stuff from.
I'm very aware. I've maybe stolen things from people who didn't like it, and it might have almost killed me, so I understand the principle. I'm not going to steal from, anyone else, but,
You may steal from anyone you like, Jeremy. Just remember that the night has its own rules, like little alliances, politics, diplomacy here and there. It's better not to get on the bad sides of some people. On the contrary, it's good to be on the good side of some people. And he says that smirking again at you.
Vincent kind of nods and he's like, yeah, no, I'm trying to stay on some people's good side. Maybe not Schiller, but I might have made him a little bit angry at me. Still the whole computer thing. But it's...
I heard about that, so can you tell me about your little ruckus with Mr. Schiller?
Oh, you see, he let us in to City Hall for 10 minutes. I mean, 10 minutes is not a whole lot. We can't find a whole lot with that. So, I did steal a file we needed, and I did take the computer, assuming that maybe files were on the computer, and they were, but they got deleted. So I was gonna give it back. But
did you?
Not yet. He hasn't showed up for it.
Mm-hmm.
I have a car. I just don't run very well. Kind of Jeremy points to Like he like points to like a car that's like looks like a junker, like as they're driving down the street, and he's like, "Yeah, it kind of looks like that. Piece of shit."
Vincent looks outside, thinks for a little bit, and then stands up again, goes to the driver's window, knocks on it a bit, and as driver opens it, he leans forward and asks, "What's the next car saloon? Some car dealer in the neighborhood?"
The driver kind of looks at you with a blank stare, looks at the time, and looks at you one more time. I'll figure it out, he says as he pulls out his phone and starts swiping through his brand name maps, and he finds like there is only one open at this time of night. He like holds the phone really far away and then puts it close to his face. Merv's specialty shop.
Whatever, drive us there.
Alright. He kind of dims the screen on his phone, puts it into the GPS, and he's like, alright, we'll get you going. And you start pitter-pattering along.
Vincent goes back to his seat, like just in silence, and looks at
Jeremy.
Jeremy.
Hearing all of this, is like a little shocked. He's like, this guy just buys everything. Like, he's just kind of a little bit nervous because, you know, the whole like being pampered thing is not his thing. So he's just kind of visibly like stiff a little bit about hearing Vincent's basically intentions.
Vincent sits back on the seat opposite to Jeremy, and he looks at him with his analytical sight, with his eyes just like going up and down, making sure how Jeremy feels right now. And he says, "You seem nervous. What's going on, Jeremy?"
I just didn't expect you to want to buy me a car is the only thing, but it's all right. I'm not used to this kind of thing, Vincent.
What are you used to?
Most people turn their nose up on me, you know? Especially people, if you're standing, if you stand, what I'm trying to say. It's just, you know, kind of like the bottom of the totem pole, the bottom of the ladder. Not a lot of people look in my direction.
I see. But you always wanted to climb that ladder, didn't you?
Well, it's not exactly as easy as it seems. Especially for someone like me.
Shouldn't it be easier now that you are an undead, strong creature?
Yeah. Well, assuming that, you know, thin bloods and whatnot are on the bottom of the ladder, it might be a little bit still harder for me, but I'm definitely gonna put the effort in. See where it lands me. You know, can't hurt, right?
I was wondering, actually. I've been talking to Cypher about it very briefly, although I told her in particular not to share this information, but did she ever told you what I told her about thin bloods, especially what I told her about thin bloodness not being the eternal condition, so to speak?
Not exactly, no. I haven't heard anything about that, honestly. I just kind of assumed we were going to be like this for a while. But, I mean, it seems like being this way has its own advantages, you know?
Of course. I do believe that even being a weak vampire may make you feel way more powerful and way more capable of changing your destiny than being just a mere mortal, right? But if you were to strive for something better than that, there are ways for you to become an actual vampire.
That's very interesting. And Jeremy kind of like leans forward and like closes his eyes for a second, almost like thinking, he's like, I definitely would like that. I mean, sure, being dead and all has its flaws, but I mean, I'm already dead, so why not go all in?
Vincent looks down on his hands, just like examining his fingernails, like, you know, like just being super relaxed, neutral, not looking Jeremy in the eyes. But well, this information is highly classified and also a bit illegal to share. I think horrible things would happen if a prince would tell that to just some Finblood that he doesn't know if he can trust.
Vincent, I hear you. And then kind of Jeremy opens his eyes and kind of smiles on him. He's like, you can trust me, Vincent. I may be an addict, drug dealer, but I'm loyal. I won't forget any favors that have been paid to me.
Vincent looks back at Jeremy and smiles widely and says, well, Jeremy, I cannot trust you just yet, but I have high hopes this might change in the near future. He smiles even wider. All right, let me tell you then, Jeremy, the only way for you to get stronger than you are right now and to become a real vampire is to commit an act which is not very much tolerated by our usual authorities. I might say it is a kind of hypocritical law, as it is totally fine if a person you commit this act upon is someone that isn't very liked by Camarilla. But that's a bigger political subject. Well, what you would have to do, something that is not very much possible to you right now, but maybe sometime in the future, would be to drain a stronger vampire than you dry.
Oh, well, that's definitely interesting. So I gotta basically eat a stronger vampire to climb up the chain and become an actual vampire.
Yes, that's kind of a natural way that our chain advances forward, if I can say. As a Finblood, you are a vampire of a high generation, as we say. Generations of vampires, that's a long and boring topic, I don't want to bore you with that a lot. But they come from Cain, as some people say, or from some other ancient vampire that was the first of us. And then as he created his first child, and then they created their own, and their own, and their own, our blood gets diluted slowly. So the higher in generation we are, the weaker we are, in fact. That makes you be somewhere on the very bottom of this food chain. But if you were to ever consume the blood in its entirety of another vampire, you would be able to step just this one little step closer, higher on this ladder of bloodsuckers. How's that sound?
Jeremy smiles and he's like, that sounds pretty good. I mean, granted, I know we can't do it anytime soon, but look, if you excuse my words, Vincent, it looks like you have a war in your hands, and I hope to contribute as much as I can to that. And maybe, you know, when things work out, I can, you know, do what you say and maybe climb the ladder a little bit.
Vincent grins and chuckles a bit and says, that's exactly what I'm talking about, Jeremy. I'm so happy that you're so understanding.
Well, Vincent, I'm not exactly, look, I may be a drug dealer, but I ain't stupid. So I'm definitely following you.
Vincent nods, and then he leans towards the driver again, knocks and asks, are we far?
As you knock on the window, the car comes to a stop. You look outside the window, and there is, in kind of a weird neonish color sign, there is a capital M, a lowercase e, a capital R, and a lowercase v, apostrophe s. So Merv's, car dealership.
Mervs.
It looks like they have all the newest stuff, all the old stuff, all the good stuff.
Vincent opens the doors and gestures Jeremy to follow him and steps out of the...
Jeremy kind of slides out casually and kind of looks at the place and is like, what a stupid name for a car dealership. But let's go.
Vincent takes Jeremy under his arm, like he just basically holds him, and steps towards the parlor.
As he...
Jeremy kind of like is surprised by Vincent just wrapping his arm around him, but then kind of just lets it happen and walks towards the place.
As you enter the RV place, there is another man currently leaning over, talking to who you assume to be the only working associate in the store right now. And as you approach, the conversation seems pretty casual. You know, I am looking for a new vehicle, but I just don't know if I can swing the prices. Is there any way we could get a lower price? Sorry, boss. Merv doesn't like lower prices. We could set up a payment plan if you ain't got the money. Money's not the issue, my dear sir. I just don't know if these cars are up to my standards. As you begin approaching closer and closer, something seems familiar about this man, and as your footsteps echo throughout the dealership, the associate at the counter looks up and sees you, and the man at the counter turns around. As you all make eye contact with the man at the counter, his milk chocolate-like skin and piercing blue eyes just kind of stare at you, and he's like, oh my, I didn't expect to run into you guys here. In front of you, in a midnight blue tuxedo with midnight blue pants and black shoes, hair slicked back, stands the only one you know as Z. It's a pleasure to meet you, I suppose, but it looks like you have some business to attend to. Z turns back to the associate. I'll be back later. And he kind of stands up and sizes up both.
Vincent just like looks at him and just says, wait.
We'll have time.
Jeremy's in a high alert.
Vincent quickly puts his hand in his jackets, like with a supernatural speed, and takes the envelope that he kept clutched on his chest in the chest pocket and hands it over to Z.
Z looks at the letter. What is this for?
You know well who is this for.
Z stretches and smiles. Oh, Vincent. He kind of looks at the calendar. It shows, for some reason, that Christmas is going to be a big sale. Kind of looks back. Hold on to it. Santa Claus might be coming to town sooner than you think. And he just kind of disperses into mist.
Vincent is like so visibly angry right now.
Are we
He's
inside
like-
the dealership right now?
Yeah.
Is the guy like looking at us?
No.
Okay. I was like, did he just watch this man turn into mist?
As you look over to the associate, he happens to be drinking some very fine red wine.
Well, he looked out.
Vincent just like looks outside of the window where the mist dispersed, and he just like he pants. He freaking like he tries his best to compose himself, but it's so difficult.
Jeremy kind of like puts like a hand on his shoulder and he's like, Vincent, I don't know what you're going through right now, but he said he'll talk to you later. It's not the end.
Vincent like growls a bit in the direction of Jeremy and just says, "You have no idea what I'm going through right now." And then he composes himself after a little sigh, although it takes him a bit to stay in silence, just like trying to compose himself. And then he approaches the man behind the counter.
Prince Lenz, nice to see you. What can I do for you?
We need a car for this young gentleman.
He kind of looks over your shoulder.
Yo.
What kind of car you want?
Vincent turns around towards Jeremy and says, "The man asked the question, Jeremy."
Jeremy kind of looks around and kind of sees like a lot of nice cars and he's like, nothing too nice, but something that runs pretty well.
He kind of looks over at you, looks at Vincent, and he's like, I'll go see if I can't get Merv up and see if we can't find what you're looking for. And he kind of stands up and saunters off to the back.
In the moment when they're waiting, Vincent is just like so visibly sad and upset, and he keeps on looking outside the window, just like he approaches the window finally. He just like puts his forehead on the glass and he just looks out in silence. He seems to be in despair, honestly.
As you
Jeremy,
glance out the window, your mind kind of feels as though a pair of eyes are looking back at you, and there's a face looking back at you, one that you remember.
Vincent tenses. It's lightly put. And he puts his hands on the glass with his eyes widening in shock.
Jeremy, having no idea what's going on, just kind of walks over to where Vincent is and puts his back against the glass and just stands there. Kind of just trying to be near Vincent, just hoping like the company will make him feel a little bit better, but not knowing what else to do.
After a solid 30 minutes of silence and still air, you hear a heavier set man walking from the back. As you turn to look at him, you see he has really long beard. Like, for someone that works on cars, he shouldn't have this long of a beard. There's a pair of goggles on his forehead, holding back a massive amount of gray hair. His eyes look weathered, he looks very tired, and he looks very irritated. Vincent, really? Another nighttime call? Fine. What can I do for you?
Vincent finally snaps back after 30 minutes of being in an absolute trance. And he suddenly very composed. He steps towards the man and says, Looking good, Marv.
He kind of narrows his eyes at you. I'll let it go because you're the prince, but you know I'm Mirv.
Mirv.
All right, Marv. We need a car for this gentleman over here, and he will tell you exactly what he needs because I have no idea about cars.
He kind of...
And he goes back to the window and just looks out of it again.
The face is gone. In front of you
Fuck.
is just a back. And it keeps getting further and further away. So, Miarv kind of looks at Jeremy and he's like... 99 Buick Century. Brown. Not very descript. No spoilers. Not fancy tires. Something you can use to go undercover. Not something that stands out. I'll be right back. And he just kind of walks out the front door.
Like, got it, P.
Vincent, like, they don't even notice it, but Vincent uses his celerity and just storms out of the place, panting and looking around in the night.
Nothing.
He just stands there and looks into the darkness. He's so emo tonight, oh my god.
Jeremy kind of just hears like a ding, 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 and he's like, what was that? And he looks at the door, and just no one's there. He's like, what's going on?
After about 5 minutes, this 99 Buick Century kind of just stops in front of you. It looks nicer than your vehicle, but it's still definitely... It has that it's a very inconspicuous car, but like
yeah,
in your neighborhood it would stand out like a sore thumb. But it runs. He hands you the Carfax TM and all that good stuff, and he's like, this is gonna be the best I can do for you, kid. Please
Jeremy
don't
kinda
get
walks
it
up to
burned.
it like touches it, he's like, it's perfect.
He kind of hands you 2 sets of keys, and he's like, spare tire, not a donut in the back. If you need anything, I assume it's going to be on the prince's dime, so you can just bring it back here. And get it taken care of. Just don't do too much damage on it.
Thanks, Mirv. You got it. Like, kind of looks over the car real quick.
Looks pretty solid. There's a couple little rust spots, but they're mostly negligible. You know, they add
Jeremy
the
doesn't even
aesthetic.
notice them. He's like, wow, this car's so nice.
Inside is a nice leather interior. It's for some reason a dark crimson red leather interior. The windows are tinted. It honestly seems like they're more to one-way mirrors than windows. As Merv lifts up the hood, you can see that engine definitely does not belong in this car. It's for some reason, like, you turn to look at him and he just shrugs. He's like, I wanted to see how a hybrid engine would work in it, and it does pretty okay, so enjoy, I guess.
It's like, well, I mean, it looks good, so it's definitely like at least 3 times better than my car.
He looks at you, looks you up and down 3 times.
Maybe 10. You know, look, it's just better. All right, thanks.
No problem. If you need anything, just give me a call.
In the time when they are talking, Vincent is just taking his phone out and making a very quick call to the Alabaster Tower, to Officer Chang, so they can get them another driver and just transport him there where they stand right now.
As you call Chunk, he's like, okay, sir, I'll send out another limo. And another one pulls up besides the one that was just parked outside.
I didn't mean a limo, oh my god. I meant a driver in a cab so he can drive the car for Jeremy. Holy shit. You never understand me. And he just waits there with 2 limos in front of him.
Like Jeremy looks at the second limo, and then he looks at Vince. He's like, "What's the second limo for?"
I don't know, man. I have no idea.
So, after a while, the 2 limo drivers look at each other, and they're just. Well, the first one gets out, and he's like, did you need me to go? Am I in the way? Like,
Can you?
Vincent pulls. What?
Jeremy will actually just kind of be like, "Hey, can you like drive my car home? You know, I think Vincent kind of intended for you to drive this this nice car back to my place." And he kind of like touches like the not so good looking car, but you know, definitely compared to like the limo.
Vincent approaches Jeremy and interrupts him a bit, just like puts his hand around Jeremy's shoulder and points him towards the 2 limousines. Hey, we have 2 of them right now. Which of them you prefer?
They're like identical.
they are very, very identical.
Jeremy kind of closes his eyes and like picks one. That one.
Alright, and Vincent faces towards the driver of another one and he says, please go drive Jeremy's car back to his warehouse, I would say, and drive the limousine back to Alabaster, to Ivory Tower right after. And you won't be needed for tonight after that. Thank you so much, and excuse me for interrupting your evening.
It's very, very alright, sir. It's a pleasure to serve you, the lady says as she exits her limo and gets one of the keys from Merv and hops in the Buick and drives.
Well, I hope I made you at least a bit happier tonight, Jeremy. He smiles as they walk back to the limousine.
Jeremy watches his car drive off. He's like, I miss you already. No,
as there's an explosion in this.
No!
So, as you guys get back into the limo, the driver kind of looks back. Where to now, boss?
That nightclub that you proposed before, that would be perfect.
Roost, got it. And he just kind of closes the window and begins to drive.
Vincent looks at Jeremy and smiles a bit. Well, that took us a long time. You must be parched by now.
Oh, I would say so, but I mean, granted, it was eventful, but I just hope that you're alright. That's all I ask.
Vincent doesn't really look fully alright. He seems to be a little bit more down since the last time you sit in a limo, and like looking out of the window every now and then, just being a little bit unsettled.
Not even sure what to do at this point. Jeremy just kind of like leans forward a little bit and just kind of keeps looking at Vincent.
Vincent wants to make sure that his companion is relaxed. So as soon as he notices that Jeremy is a little bit tenses up a bit because of his behavior, then he tries to loosen the atmosphere a bit with a conversation. So he looks at Jeremy once again, and he says, now that we are going to have some fun, finally, I want you to show me your abilities in the nightclub that we will visit.
All right. It's like, I can show you what I got. Like Jeremy like cracks his neck a little bit, like stretching. He's like,
well, you don't have to show off. I know perfectly what I want to see from you. And as he says that, the limo pulls over and stops.
In front, before you open the door opens for you, and before you stands a fairly slender lady. Her figure an almost perfect hourglass, her hair a vibrant red, her eyes a beautiful hazel. Her lipstick is done in a fairly bright red. She's dressed in suit pants and a nice blazer top. And she looks down at you and she's like, I really don't know why they made you the prince, but I'm your new sheriff. You can call me Therese for now.
Yes! Vincent's just like...
She kind of looks disturbed at the yes.
No, I didn't say that. That was just my mind speaking. I am very composed as I lift my head up a bit. I look at her and smile very politely and say, "It's a pleasure to meet you, Therese. And I hope that I will be able to show you why exactly they chose me in the next couple of months, depending on how long we'll stick together." He says that by smiling at her and showing his fangs.
She just kind of straight-faced has the door open, just kind of nods.
Jeremy just kind of like looks at her and it's like he immediately thinks sheriff ? And just kind of like writes it off. He's like, probably important. And just kind of like, follows Vincent's lead.
Vincent walks out of the limo and he stands next to the sheriff. Is she taller than me, or
she is very much taller than you?
Okay, so he looks up at her and like up and down, just like examining her for a bit, and says, "Well, Therese, I had no information that you will be our guest tonight. We'll be spending the evening together."
Unfortunately.
Huh.
Seeing that this new mysterious lady is joining them, Jeremy's like, "Oh, well, nice to meet you, Therese. I'm Jeremy."
Mm-hmm.
Just seeing her response, he's like, "Okay."
He looks at her and he just like remains cold, with a little bit of a smile on his face, but just like in general his demeanor towards her seems to be a bit cold. And he says, "Well, Therese, if you don't mind, I do appreciate your company and the protection that you, I would assume, would offer. But if I might ask you for one favor, would it be possible for you to keep a bit of distance today? I have some matters to discuss with this young gentleman in here."
Don't have to ask me twice, she said, closing the door and kind of standing about 5-10 feet away.
Vincent smiles at her and just winks, and then just wraps his arm again around Jeremy and leads him towards the...
As you guys approach the club, the booming bass sends shivers down your spine. The smell of debauchery and probably drugs, most likely drugs, wafts out of the roost. In front of the door stands two men, just kind of chit-chatting, and then they look up and they're like, "Name?"
Vincent approaches the two men, just spreading his aura around, and looks him in the eyes, smiles a bit with a little, like one corner of his lips going higher than the other, and says, "Let us in."
And the men look at each other and shrug and open the door.
Tight security. Jeremy just kind of follows Vincent in, just kind of like looking at them and like looking back at Vincent.
As you guys enter, it's like it feels like there's a line down the middle of the club. To the left is like businessmen in suits and ties smoking Cuban cigars and drinking their whatever they have in their glasses with gigantic ice cubes in it, and it feels like a parlor. And on the other side, it just looks like a freaking madhouse. There's people dancing all over each other, there's drinks being spilled, there's probably a fight. You think you see some blood flying?
Vincent just bares his fangs and says, "Perfect."
Jeremy's like, quite a diverse clientele.
Vincent faces Jeremy and just like holds him close, looking him in the eyes, and says, "Jeremy, this is where you will shine. Your talents will shine. See, you have a lot more street cred than I do. You know what these people are taking and using. Try to find someone who you find attractive and who you find to be on something that you enjoyed back then." And he smiles and just like pets Jeremy's butt a bit and like tells him to go forward.
Jeremy kind of being released into the wild is gonna be like, okay, I got this, and basically look for, you know, an attractive male doing, I don't know, cocaine or something.
There are quite a few attractive males doing cocaine. The one that really stands out is wearing a hoodie, you know, nondescript, but he looks like he can hold his cocaine, putting it mildly.
Putting it mildly? Okay.
Vincent stands back and just observes what Jeremy will do. Kind of ready to intervene in case something goes wrong, but he gives him a free hand.
I need you to roll against your clan vein real quick. Vincent.
Oh, you roll for me.
Oh yes. Alright. So,
oh, because I saw his butt. Oh my god.
So you begin scanning the crowd, you know, making sure no one's approaching Jeremy, and then you like look at Jeremy and you're just like, oh. In front of you is the most glorious butt you have ever seen. It makes you want to cry how beautiful it is. I mean, Haley's got a nice butt, but Jeremy, oh boy, Jeremy.
Vincent just like leans, there's probably some kind of a wall or a pillar next to him. He just leans over it and just looks at Jeremy's butt without even trying to look at anything else in the club. He's absolutely mesmerized. And if Jeremy would to turn and see him, like, he wouldn't even change his position or try to like hide it. He just like stares at it, salivating slightly.
Jeremy, your butt senses tingle.
My butt senses. I've been watched. Jeremy kind of like looks over your shoulder and sees like Vincent watching him, but doesn't do anything to stop it. Just kind of keeps going about his basically tried to get this guy in a more vulnerable position. So
You're gonna go up to the guy in the hoodie and do the talks.
Yeah, I'm gonna do the talks this guy.
Alright, so you're talking to him, listening him up, things like that, and it goes really well. Like, not very hard, fairly easy. And after a while, you know, he's feeling it. He's like, so we gonna go back to your place? Do you wanna go to my place? Do you just wanna go to like a park? Like, what you wanna do, my dude?
Jeremy actually kind of play this. So I'm actually going to use my presence awe, and I want to make him, because he knows how much cocaine to take before it's too much.
Mm-hmm.
But I want him to take a little bit too much that he's gonna probably pass out somewhere.
And he does.
So I'm kind of gonna make it kind of pull him outside and basically help him walk outside. Like he looks like he's in a rough position, and lead him out, pull him into basically the alley. So no one can see them.
So Vincent looks at what Jeremy is doing, and as Jeremy seems to be occupied, is Vincent back to his composure, by the way? Can he do things?
He can still do things. He can follow the booty.
So he still follows the booty, but he tries his best to move his eyes away from Jeremy's bat for a moment and look for someone who is on something heavier than that guy. You know, someone who is very chilled somewhere in the corner, someone pretty and also very close to ODing, probably.
You find one.
Alright, so I take that person, just wrap my hands around the waist, lift it up, and walk outside after Jeremy.
You're coming with me.
You managed to basically abduct someone.
Right.
She just steals this person.
So Vincent walks outside, kind of coughs a bit as he's behind Jeremy to attract his attention, and he just gestures Jeremy to bring his victim to the limo.
Alright, Jeremy kind of nods and carries the guy over to the limo.
So, you guys carry your respective dudes over to the limo. They're both completely under. You can pretty much go ahead and do whatever you want to them, and they probably won't remember.
Alright.
Is Sheriff going with us, by the way, or is Sheriff still in the club?
She's watching from a distance.
Okay, good.
As you requested.
So we close the doors to the limo, and she's not with us, is she?
Correct.
Good. I sit down, just with my hands wrapped around the person I've just abducted, and I look curiously at Jeremy in silence, not doing anything, just curiously checking on what he will do.
Jeremy is kind of focusing on the guy that's unconscious right now, and he's actually gonna prop him, make him in more comfortable position that when he does this, he will it's not gonna be awkward when he's basically cutting this guy's wrist and trying to drink it.
Yeah, you managed to successfully make him more comfortable.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna basically feel for a vein in his arm, and then I'm gonna take the dagger I was given and lightly nick it. I'm not gonna try to make the cut very deep, so it might be a slow feed, but so long as it's flowing.
And the blood is indeed flowing.
Alright. Then Jeremy will just put it to his mouth and he'll just start drinking.
And so you do.
Vincent pays attention to Jeremy's drinking, feeling a little bit aroused by the whole situation, but not too much to show. And he just makes sure that Jeremy doesn't go too far.
Jeremy doesn't go too far, as far as you're concerned.
Good. Waiting for Jeremy to finish, he just leans back and still with his hand put around the abducted gentleman, he just slowly pets his hair as he leans over his shoulder.
You guys feed on your respective attics.
I don't feed on mine, no.
Oh, wow. Continue. I will be quiet.
Alright. Jeremy will kind of finish and kind of look back at Vincent. Maybe because I don't think he knows how to close wounds yet. So he's like, so how do you stop people from bleeding with your fangs?
It will just stop on itself, don't worry about it.
I
mean, you can lick it. You can lick it to make it a little bit faster. He says that by smirking and just looking at Jeremy.
And then Jeremy will like kind of like chuckle a little bit and then lean over and like look at the guy's wrist to see if that helps.
Vincent just sighs.
Alright, so the guy probably won't die from bleeding out, that's all I'm trying to make sure.
Vincent leans back and asks Jeremy, so how do you feel now?
I feel good. Definitely the shakes have stopped, which is a good sign.
Question to Z, does that feeling make Jeremy also a bit intoxicated?
I think it does.
Dude's wired.
Yeah, I'm feeling it.
Vincent smiles, seeing that Jeremy seems to be visibly in a pleasant zone, let's say, in the place that he wants to be. He faces towards his addict that he's holding. He takes his hand and bites in it with his own fangs, slightly, but doesn't drink. He just hands over the hand of his addict to Jeremy.
Seeing that, Jeremy will kind of like be a little confused for a moment, but like go in for it and try to drink from him.
Vincent looks at Jeremy and just like curiously tries to check how that blood will affect him.
I mean, assuming that he's getting even more high, Jeremy kind of is like, kind of getting in like a little bit of a daze. But I wouldn't think it would like impact him negatively in any way.
Vincent smiles, seeing Jeremy's reaction. He waits for him to finish, and then he opens the window, looks out to see his sheriff standing there, and says, "Hey, Varese, would you take care of these two gentlemen for us? Make sure that they go back to the club safe."
Therese sighs. Of course I can. She kind of just takes both of them and slings them over her shoulder and walks them back inside.
Watching Therese disappear in the club, making sure that she's nowhere in the line of sight, Vincent closes the window and approaches Jeremy. Just like sits next to him without maintaining that much of a private space. And he just looks him in the eyes, like puts his hand on Jeremy's head a bit, just like delicately touching his hair, and says, "I've never felt what these things feel like. Dare to describe."
Jeremy kind of like looks at Vincent. It's like, "You mean how I feel?"
Mm-hmm.
Kind of Jeremy like lets out like a long sigh and like smiles and is like, "I just feel comfortable. I feel good. It feels like there's nothing that really can bother me in this world when I'm like this."
Is that a similar feeling to what you felt when you did this for the first time?
I would say so. It's the best it's been. I mean, the way the blood and the drugs mix, It's even better. Kind of Jeremy smiles and it's like a little bit in a daze. He's like kind of like his eyes are like kind of like glazed over a little bit and he's kind of like looking at Vincent, but he's not like 100% there.
Sure. Vincent looks at him with a smile on his face and just like baring his fangs a bit. He says, well, I would assume that the likes of you do tend to look for something even better, right?
Of course. I'm always looking for that next high.
What if I said that I do have something even better?
What is that?
Well, that's a secret, he says and grins. But if you want to try it out, I promise you will feel even better.
Jeremy chuckles like, I'm in for it. Whatever you got for me. I'm
You
down.
just have to promise me one thing. And he leans towards his ear and he says, close your eyes.
And Jeremy closes his eyes immediately.
And then Vincent just bites straight into his neck, making sure to leave that lingering kiss going on.
Oh.
I think Z might take over explaining how this works.
Yeah, I think he's gonna have to explain, yeah. I know what lingering kiss is, but...
Jeremy, as Vincent bites down on your neck, there is a intense rush of emotion, passion, everything. It's better than drinking the smashed head of the homeless man. You feel as though not as strongly that you can't live without it, but it's definitely one of those things that you could definitely use on a daily basis. Like, not the greatest, but you know, if push comes to shove, you would 100% do this again all the time, as opposed to anything else.
Vincent lifts his head after he's done, and with his lips like still red, just smiles back at Jeremy.
Jeremy is just kind of like almost like intoxicated from basically Vincent feeding from him, and kind of like he's like a little blushed and like he kind of like that oh yeah, Vincent, that's even better. Like he like laughed like a little bit and he's like, oh, hey man, we gotta do this more often, huh?
Well, anytime you please, Jeremy. And he says that and leans over to Jeremy and just gives him a tiny little kiss.
Jeremy is kind of shocked by that, but he's totally into it at this point. So there is no resistance from him, and he's like leaning in as well.
Well, the night is slowly about to end, I'm afraid. I guess I have to ask my driver to drive you back home. Unless, of course, you want to take a longer route.
Let's take the long route.
Vincent just leans in for a more passionate kiss, and I guess that's where we'll end.
As the car is making its way back to the ivory tower, the limo screeches to a halt as there's a thud against the front of the limo. As everyone exits the car, there is a lady in the road, her eyes wide with terror. She doesn't appear to have been severely injured, and she looks, then her eyes focus on Jeremy. What the hell? Why are you still alive, Jeremy? Jeremy, in front of you, you see Warren's girlfriend, terrified. Jeremy, Haley Johnson just killed Warren, and that's where we'll end it.
Oh no.
Oh god.
I have no words.
That was good. That was good, Mr. Z.
That's what I do.
You son of a bitch. You know, going after Tommy, now me. Can't you just be Tommy all the time?
I'm sorry, everyone's gotta be loved equally.
Hey, was Jeremy like naked?
Yep.
Just walked out of the
Oops,
car
seriously.
naked. Whoops. I forgot I wasn't wearing clothes.
That high though.
Like stormed out of the limo, just like hiding his crotch with like a t-shirt or something.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. That was truly something.
Alright, I'm gonna wrap this up real quick and then I'll be back for you two. Everyone, thank you very much for joining us on this special edition of Vampire Masquerade version 5. Campaign name, Edge of the Masquerade. Twitter, Discord, all that fun stuff. You want to interact with the cast, there's an Elysium in the Discord. Again, thank you all. I guess in most places it's daytime, so have a very safe day. And we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you. And have a very wonderful and safe. Is it rest of your day or rest of your night? I'm not 100% sure. Regardless, goodbye.